Well, well, well. The ceasefire definitely doesn't seem to be going too well. I think it's been, what, a couple of hours? And already it looks like there's already altercations starting to happen. Let's get into it.
So we're now learning President Trump's threat against Iranian energy hub pushed the regime leaders to make a ceasefire deal with the United States. But the 2-week ceasefire hold will only last as long as Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz.
Responding to reports of...
And just based on sort of what I've seen and what we're about to get into now, it looks like it's already over.
Potential in-person talks in Pakistan coming up this Friday in 2 days. The White House press secretary said there are discussions about in-person talks, but nothing is final until announced by the president or the White House.
So will it have any bearing on the president's scheduled meeting today with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte? Let's bring in Mark Dubowitz, former advisor on Iran policy to the Biden, Trump, Obama, and Bush administrations. Mark, good morning. And I want to get to the ceasefire and how this all came about. But let me just ask you quickly about that NATO piece. This is going to be an interesting and possibly heated meeting between two friends with Rutte because NATO has not been there for us.
Yeah, a meeting between two very good friends, but I think the president is right to be very disappointed with NATO and its lack of contribution to this effort. I mean, we discovered in this war, we do have very strong allies, Israel, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Ukraine, but unfortunately most European leaders were not there for us, and we're critical, and certainly we're not contributing
What a damn shame.
Yeah, Mark, you advised so many presidents, President Biden, obviously President Trump, Obama, and President Bush. So what was happening behind the scenes? And when you look at that 10-point plan, where do we go? We can't agree to all of that. So what happens over the next 2 weeks? How do we come to
we'll get into that 10-point plan as well.
Well, the fundamental difference with all those presidents is that after 15 months of having President Trump in office, Iran has never been weaker in its 47-year history. I mean, the amount of damage done to the regime under President Trump.
Okay, well, they've got it here as well. So the UN... the US must fundamentally commit to guaranteeing non-aggression, continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, ridiculous, acceptance that Iran can enrich uranium for its nuclear program. I mean, guys, what are we doing? Isn't that exactly the whole plan about why this started in the first place? Was that we needed to stop allowing them to further their nuclear program. So basically all of this, if they go ahead with this proposal, it's basically saying, well, all of this was pretty much for nothing. Removal of all primary sanctions on Iran. Removal of all primary sanctions on a terrorist regime. Okay, removal of all secondary sanctions against foreign entities that do business with Iranian institutions. Like, nah, what is this? What kind of proposal is this? There is no way that the US can be taking this seriously. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is completely pointless.
Trump is remarkable. So he's coming in with maximum leverage and 15 very clear demands from the Iranians. I think it's very unlikely President Trump would ever agree to the ridiculous demands that the Iranians have put forward. So we're going to be looking for a deal that strips Iran of its war-making capabilities, its nuclear capabilities, and puts it in a position where it can't threaten its neighbors or the United States.
Mark, I'm curious, you know, the president has earned a lot of goodwill from the American public and how he handles conflicts. But looking at the point plan, there's such a separation between what the United States wants and what Iran's stated goal is. They want us gone. They want Israel gone as well. Is there any case where the people that are currently running Iran agrees to some sort of proposal of long-lasting peace?
Well, there's certainly a planetary difference between the U.S. demands and the Iranian demands. But I think the regime is now facing the prospect of complete elimination. I mean, when you look at the obituary list of this regime, the number of senior commanders and leaders, including this former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, that have been eliminated by the combined forces of the United States and Israel. This regime has got to know they have a choice: a deal with President Trump, or they are going to end up on the ash heap of history.
Mark, so is it different this time, aside from the non-starter list of demands by Iran? We're getting these reports in Axios and elsewhere that there was communication, there was a desire on this new regime. Mojtaba Khamenei, even in hiding, was communicating. Vice President Vance was playing a role, even from Hungary, in talks. Is there a sign that it's different this time, that this new regime does actually want to do something that Iran has never wanted to do, which is to negotiate in actual good faith?
Like, I mean, this is the thing, before the guy even answers, I can guarantee you it's not going to be any different this time. Why would it be any different this time? They've always been about the destruction of the West. It's part of the religion. It's part of how they operate. You look at Muhammad's life, you look at the Quran, you look at the way they're treating, or the way they have treated Western civilization in the past. It has continually been bloodshed. Look at the medieval era. Look at the Ottoman Turks. Look at what's currently happening in Europe. Look what's currently happening in the UK. Look what's currently happening in America with all the Islamists. It's their ideology is anti-Western. They will never change that, because then they have to change religions, because their religion is antithetical to the West. It is about Western domination and the rise of Islam taking over the whole world. They won't change.
I doubt that they'll negotiate in good faith. I think they are committed to resistance at all costs. But if the new people that have taken the place of the men that have been eliminated over and over again want to stay alive, they've got to understand that there has to be some kind of deal. And the real question is, what are they willing to concede on? They've got to concede on their nuclear program, on their ballistic missile program, on their support for terrorism. And President Trump did not come into office and will not leave office with this regime in charge of the Strait of Hormuz, and this regime with deadly capabilities that can threaten the United States and our allies.
All right,
ain't
we'll
gonna
see
change.
what happens with this meeting with NATO today. Will we pull
Mark.
out of NATO? Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
All right. So that was from Fox News. Now, this is the stuff that always baffles my brain. We'll get into the other. I think they only mentioned 5 of the 10 points there, which is interesting. We'll get into the others. So yeah, we got a holy smokes. Missiles are raining down on Tel Aviv less than 2 hours after the ceasefire. Amazing. Ain't no damn surprise there.
Off the mic again. Mike, what are we seeing there?
Well, Jesse, as anticipated, the sirens are now wailing over Tel Aviv, indicating that another missile is inbound. And it looks like those bright lights in the sky are missiles. And it looks like you can see an interceptor that is in hot pursuit of the missiles. And it's always quite dramatic when you see those interceptors going after it. And these ones might disappear behind our building here, and we're going to lose sight of them. But they're still quite lethal and coming into Tel Aviv. And I didn't see an interception in this case. Should be able to hear it in a second or so.
So this is 2:24
and it's still
a.m.
quite lethal when there's an interception. Most of what we see out here are those cluster bombs in recent days. But when you get a conventional warhead with that powerful explosive, obviously you hope that the interceptors can get it. And the interceptors are about 90% effective, but that means 10% get through. And those conventional warheads we've seen are quite powerful. They leave great craters in the ground. Still waiting to hear the impact on this one, which should come any second. But we saw 2 lights in the sky.
Oh, there you go.
There. And there was another flash off in the distance there.
Yeah, so this is during the ceasefire, right?
Quite big explosions, so that sounded like more of a conventional warhead that got through. I can't really tell you if that was an impact or an interception because we lost sight of that one, Jesse.
Yeah, you could definitely hear that. Real quick, how long does it take for an Iranian missile to travel to Tel Aviv? What did you say?
I say about 10 minutes usually.
10 minutes?
By the time we, about 10 minutes from when we first get the alert.
All right.
Till I'm hearing more impacts off in the distance from when we first get the alert to when the sirens start wailing.
All right. Well, maybe the remnants of the Iranian regime either didn't get the memo or they did and they don't care.
They
So
obviously that's the latter one. Yeah, I like how readers added context they thought people might want to know. So the ceasefire is only between Iran and the United States. So that means it's okay to go ahead and bomb Tel Aviv, considering that Tel Aviv is not part of the proposal, not part of the agreement. Yet you've also got a problem because now, so this also just happened. Fox News breaking right now. Iranian state media says Iran is closing the Strait of Hormuz. So you've got this situation here. I think this one's quite soft. Let me go ahead and preemptively go ahead and turn this up so we can hear it.
As Iran claims Israel is violating the agreement by bombing Hezbollah in Lebanon. And as you mentioned a moment ago, breaking right...
So you've got Iran crashing out because they're saying...
As Iran claims Israel is violating the agreement by...
They're saying that Iran is saying that Israel is violating the agreement. But then you've got people going ahead and saying, no, but Israel was never part of the agreement in any case. But Israel is still carrying out strikes. So they're crashing out about the fact that Israel is busy carrying on. But then you've got Iran saying, no, we're allowed to bomb. We're allowed to bomb Israel. Because that was never part of the agreement. Like, I mean, what are we doing? What are these people actually talking about? This is insane. They are such liars.
Iran claims Israel is violating the agreement by bombing Hezbollah in Lebanon. And as you mentioned a moment ago, breaking right now, Iranian state media says Iran is closing the Strait of Hormuz again in response. Salam.
Yep. I wish people would start to realize that you can't reason with them. And then we've got Pete Hegseth talking about the situation again.
President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital...
Like, the only way I can see them saying that they had enough is simply just for the sake of attempting to get a respite from the destruction that was brought upon them by the USA and Israel, just to give them a reprieve enough to attempt to consolidate power, attempt to get more military missiles and armaments and all sorts of things from obviously their friends Russia and China. They simply just wanted a respite, just to recuperate so that they could carry on. So it was simply just a cover-up. They were just saying enough just for the sake of them getting more weapons so that they could carry on. It was never for the sake of them wanting to actually stop it. Because they just like war. They like fighting. They use their own people as human shields. They do all sorts of terrible things because it's part of their religion.
V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory.
Like, I mean, I get it. But the thing is, they'll never stop. The ideology is antithetical to the West. They won't stop. Even if they're completely surrounded. even if there's no hope of them ever winning, even if every single thing is stacked against them, they will not yield. They will not stop. So here's a letter from the White House regarding the ceasefire. Based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, because I understand that Pakistan has brokered the deal, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran and subject to Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to complete immediate and safe openings of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. Well, it's probably not even going to be that long. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. Well, apparently it's not. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis. I disagree with that, on which to negotiate. Almost all the various points of past contention have been agreed to be between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the United States of America as President and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to hold this long-term problem close to resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, let's go ahead and we can get to the other stuff just now. Let's see. So, what is the 10 points? So this is what Iran is proposing. Guaranteed non-aggression from the US with a legally binding commitment to not attack Iran, which is ridiculous. Continued Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz, ridiculous. With safe passage coordinated through Iran's armed forces and a reported fee of $2 million per ship shared with Oman to fund reconstruction. Lifting of all primary and secondary sanctions on Iran and the release of frozen Iranian assets held abroad. Who knows what the hell those assets might be. Recognition of Iran's right to uranium enrichment for its nuclear program. Though Iran's Iranian diplomats omitted this in some English versions. Of course they did. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they omit that in hopes that the US and all the English-speaking people will simply just agree to it and will just be like, oh, it's fine. We can't make out what that language is. I'm sure it's nothing. So that they can, as they always do, fly under the radar and get away with literal murder. Withdrawal of US military forces from Middle East region. Ridiculous. End to all United Nations and International Atomic Energy. End to all United Nations and International Atomic Energy Agency resolutions targeting Iran's nuclear activities. So they're basically saying, allow us to carry on doing our nuclear program, enriching uranium, and working towards getting nuclear warheads so that we can destroy the world. Fantastic. Compensation payments to Iran for war-related damages. So they want everybody to allow them to carry on doing their nuclear devious activities. And they also now want compensation for the damage that has happened because they wanted nuclear weapons to begin with. So the West decided to prevent them. Well, should I say rather, no, the West is up to crap. The US wanted to prevent them. Least logical thing to do. Why would you want to give a bigger stick to terrorists? So they dealt with that. It caused damage. Now, once again, it's, no, now you must allow us to carry on and you must go ahead and pay us for the damages that you caused. Anyway, cessation of all regional conflicts, including Israeli strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon and hostilities in Iraq and Yemen. So it's okay for Iran to go ahead and bomb Tel Aviv, as that's not part of the agreement. But they want the Israelis to stop bombing Hezbollah in Lebanon. It doesn't make sense. A complete and permanent end to the war with no time limit or temporary measures. So it must just basically stop. So they're basically saying, we don't want anybody evermore. We don't want anybody anymore to mess with Iran. No matter what we do to the world, no matter what we do to any other nation, no matter what we do to our own people, you must just leave us be. Because once again, we're a sovereign nation, right? A sovereign dictatorship. An immediate ceasefire on all fronts upon agreement to the above conditions. It's absolutely insane. This 10-point proposal is an absolute farce. It is absolutely ridiculous. Who the hell would agree to this? Absolutely insane. And this is the ideology. This is why they'll never stop. It won't end. This is what they think of the West. This is what they think of anybody who disagrees with them. They must be destroyed. Right. And this is in their parliament. So these are the officials. I would imagine most of these guys are probably dead now. Good riddance.
اگر اروپا و کشورهای مهم مثل روسیه و چین این خلأ بین المللی را پر کنند شاید راهی برای ادامه مسیر باشد. در غیر این صورت جمهوری اسلامی با اقدامات هسته‌ای خود ایشان
Otherwise, Iran will bring President Trump to his senses with its nuclear actions. Guys, there you go. There you go. They're letting us all know what they plan to do when they get nuclear weapons. They're gonna bomb America. And it says otherwise. So, implying you must allow us to get nuclear weapons. And if you don't, we'll do it anyway. And we'll use it against you anyway. They'd like to use the whole, oh no, but just allow us to have nuclear weapons. Don't worry, we won't use them though. Come on, man. Come on. This is dumb.
و این را بدانند که در چنین شرایطی ایران هیچ تعهدی ندارد.
Iran will have no commitment to stay in its previous position on the nuclear issue. Yeah, they ain't gonna stop.
که در جایگاه گذشته خود در مسئله هسته‌ای قرار بگیرد.
What a backwards people. Oh my gosh. Absolutely insane. And here's all the leftists. This is a list of all the people that were calling for Trump's removal today. So here's a whole list. Well, as you can see, all the D's. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, obviously. Incredible. The usual suspects, I guess, as well. This is why, man. The left and the Islamists. They're two sides of the same diabolical coin. And then we've got the Pope as well. Ugh.
In English, I would simply say, once again, what I said in the Urbi et Orbi message on Sunday, asking all people of goodwill to search always for peace and not violence, to reject war, especially a war which many people have said is an unjust war, which is continuing to escalate, and which is not resolving anything. In fact, we have a worldwide economic crisis, energy crisis, situation in the Middle East of great instability, which is only provoking more hatred throughout the world. So
the terrorists are the ones causing the instability.
Let's look for solutions in a peaceful way, and let's remember, especially the innocent children.
What about the 40,000 people that got killed by the Iranian regime? What about them? The Iranian citizens that got killed, the 40,000 in that protest, and I'm sure that was just one protest. I'm sure there was a hell of a lot more throughout the years of 47 years of insane terrorist activity. What about them? This guy's utterly delusional.
The elderly, the sick, so many people who have already become or will become victims of this continued warfare. To remind all that attacks on civilian infrastructure is against international law. But
okay, hang on a second. What about all the Iranian crash outs against the hotels in Dubai and all the other UAE nations? What about them? What about all those civilians? Man, sometimes you have to think this Pope, man, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he is indeed, you know what I'm saying.
That it is also a sign of the hatred, the division, the destruction that the human being is capable of. And we all want to work for peace. People want peace. I would invite the citizens of all the countries involved to contact the authorities, political leaders, congressmen, to ask them, tell them to work for peace and to reject war always. Thank you very much.
Absolutely feckless. Absolutely feckless. I wouldn't also be surprised, not if he's just an Islamist shill, because it definitely seems like it. But I wouldn't also be surprised if he's part of that, the Fabian Society as well. Man, it would make so much sense. Anyway, folks, that's pretty much the whole situation from what I have at the moment regarding the ceasefire. Well, I say ceasefire. But, yeah. We've really got to come to the conclusion that, man, the left, the socialists, the Democrats, the Fabian Society, weak spiritual leadership, and the Iranians. I say the Iranians. More specifically, the terrorist regime in Iran, and just the Islamic diabolical religion in general. They're all basically part of the same coin. They're all part of the same ilk. They're all part of the same ideology. They're anti-Christian. They're anti-West. And they want domination. And we must not allow them to have it. Yep, that's pretty much it. I'll check you guys on the next one. Cheers.